go. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Lilian Marita. I'm a dog trainer in Florida. And I start with that because I want to say a disclaimer that I'm not a vet. I'm just a dog lover. I've owned dogs for 47 years. At times I've had 10 dogs at a time. So crazy dog person. I have trained, competed, bred dogs for all this time. And just so you know how crazy I am, we moved to the United States 20 years ago and brought 9 dogs and 1 horse along with our family. So needless to say, I've had lots of experience in, ups and downs. And I have this passion and this belief that we need to be our own animals' best advocates, health advocates, because they don't have a voice. We need to be that voice for them. So that is why I'm passionate about sharing this information. And there's 2 stats that bother me a lot that I'm always doing research and trying to learn new things. And one is that the cancer rate in dogs 50 years ago was 1 in 100. And nowadays it's 1 in 1.65. So that to me is just, I can't even fathom it. And then something else that I found out was this documentary, Truth About Pet Cancer. And there's a person there that is also, this research comes, none of these companies that are putting out these things that can be potentially harmful or that have had side effects are going to put any money into proving that, right? So it takes a lot of money to run these tests. So there was a questionnaire that was sent out to 2,750 pet owners that had been using those flea and tick topicals. There's a bunch of different brands, and over 66% said that there was some sort of side effect. And the side effects would range from, oh, the dog was a little lethargic, or, XYZ, to death and seizures. So it's a very wide spectrum, but that 66%, it just blew my mind. So something that I said last week was, dogs don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't stress over work, they don't stress over relationships, right? So what is causing this rate of disease at this outrageous number? And the conclusion is it has to be something that we're doing to them. We are causing it, the environment is causing it. So last Wednesday we talked about diet, and I think that's the first building block. It's so important for you to look at your dog's diet. And Eileen is gonna put the link to that one if you didn't hear that on the chat box, so you can copy it and start there. And today we're going to be talking about environmental toxins. Now, part of those environmental toxins are in food. And what happens with the food is that most of the dog food, the commercial dog food kibble, has some sort of grain. And even if you go into the no grain, there has to be some sort of carbohydrate for them to be able to make that food. So think about, like, if you're going to make a cake and you just use sugar, butter, and eggs, guess what? You cook that and you're going to get scrambled egg. You need the flour. If you don't put the flour in, that's the binding agent. So even if you go to a no-grain food, they go to potatoes or sweet potatoes or peas or chickpeas, there is going to be a source of carbohydrate for them to be able to make that little kibble, what is it called? Whatever, to extrude it or to bake it. So all grains and even potatoes are heavily sprayed, and all grain used for animal feed is GMO, from GMO crops. And all the animal protein that goes into animal feed has been fed some sort of GMO crop. So if you're not familiar with the term GMO, it means genetically modified organism. And what that is that these are organisms that have been tinkered genetically. And in the case of, let's say, plants, what they do is that those plants can be heavily sprayed with herbicides, and all the weeds around it die, but they don't. And also now, because the harvesting machines work better when those grains are dry, when those plants are dry, they also spray them because it speeds up the drying. So it's like a double whammy. They are being sprayed when they're planted, and they're being sprayed when they're harvested. So you might have heard of the term Roundup Ready corn. That's what it means. So Roundup is just one brand. It's a brand that was made famous by Monsanto. And it is sprayed to the tune of 300 million pounds per year here in the United States. Another issue with the Roundup or with any of those herbicides that contain glyphosate, which is, let's say, the main ingredient, but it's almost like a toxic brew because it's glyphosate plus a bunch of other things. It's that it's water soluble. So when it rains, that's going to go into the rivers and go into the lakes and go into the groundwater. And so when it goes into the water cycle. So even if you're very proud of your nice little organic garden, guess what? That rain contains glyphosate. So glyphosate has been detected in mother's milk, in you name it. It's really a very pervasive toxin. So one of the things that happens is that Monsanto lied, that is the correct term, and what they said is, oh, glyphosate only affects plants. It doesn't affect humans, it doesn't affect animals. What they did not disclose is that it affects bacteria, fungi, and algae. So we're mainly concerned with bacteria. Why? Because you have probably heard that 80% of your immune system and also for the animals lies in your gut, in the good bacteria in your gut. So what this herbicide is doing is it's also killing good bacteria in your gut, and that leads to a host of problems. So the way this works is that it blocks a pathway in your body in plants that enables the production of essential amino acids. So amino acids, think of them as little Lego blocks. I have my little Lego demo here. So essential amino acids you have to eat from plants. Your body, animals cannot make them. The plants can make them, but now we're eating plants that cannot make these essential amino acids, and we cannot make them. So what happens is that your body then, so let's say that my essential amino acid is the yellow Lego. Well, now I only have these 3, right? So there's no yellow. So think about the consequences of your body having all these essential amino acids make the things that the cell needs to be healthy. Another way to look at it, a graphic way, is think of the amino acids as the alphabet and the essential amino acids being the vowels. And now you try to spell your name without the vowels. So that is what's happening inside our bodies because this glyphosate is not allowing the plants to make those essential amino acids. So think about your dog that is eating a grain diet. That is what he gets in his food. It's a food that's deficient, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. So the other problem with glyphosate is that it smuggles heavy metals. So it's called chelation, that's the fancy term, but just think of it as the glyphosate, this is a heavy metal, they bind together, and now the glyphosate brings it into the bloodstream. And when it gets into your bloodstream, where is it gonna go? All over your body, including the brain. And you have to be living under a rock to not know that there is a connection between heavy metals and neurodegenerative diseases. Even things like autism, Alzheimer's, depression, all of that, they think they're linked to heavy metals. So the other thing with dogs is that there is also an uptick into doggy, they call it doggy dementia. Now, when I was little, I never heard about doggy dementia. And I belong to several groups of people that have dogs with dementia. And you could spend a week crying if you spend an hour reading the stories. It is really devastating. So, so those are the 2 things that are very, very concerning. So the glyphosate is affecting literally every process in the body. So from vitamin D activation, and you probably heard that there's a link between lacking vitamin D and cancers. Hormones is causing infertility even in young people. Heart disease, leaky gut syndrome, anxiety, obesity, thyroid problems, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, deficiencies of micronutrients, autism, and Alzheimer's. Just to name a few. So The other part of the environmental toxins are the pesticides of those flea and tick and heartworm that we have to put, the dewormers, all of that is also adding to the toxic load, okay? Then have cleaning products, those air fresheners, whether you spray them or the plugins. Then remember, your dog is walking without shoes. They don't wear any clothes to protect them. They don't take showers every day, right? So everything is falling on top of their body. And as you well know, dogs lick their feet, they lick their fur. And it's just, oh, the other thing that I read was that a lot of these toxins are heavier than air. So they tend to come down and collect on the floor, on the carpet, on the grass. And we all know dogs love to roll on the grass. We walk up. I read a horrible stat. They said that the probability of a dog getting lymphoma was 70% higher if they were regularly walked on lawns that were sprayed with herbicides. So think about that. If you live in a place that has these perfectly green manicured lawn where you don't see one single weed, guess what that means, right? So, a lot of the carpets and the furniture and even the dog beds are sprayed with those flame retardants or those products that they put so that your furniture is stain resistant. All of that is toxin. So can you imagine, they're getting it in the food and then they're rolling in it and then we're opening their mouth and, you know, forcing them to take these flea and tick medication or putting it on their skin, directly on their skin. That is absorbed into the bloodstream. The way those things work is that the fleas and the ticks have to actually bite your dog, and that's how they get poisoned and they die. So these are neurotoxins. And again, not that I'm saying that this is what happens because I can't prove it, but just like Monsanto said, like, oh, no, this only affects plants. Now what these companies say is like, oh, no, we know these are neurotoxins, but they only affect insects. They don't affect mammals. And I take that with a grain of salt. So think about this, like literally our dogs are surrounded with these silent killers. It's in the food, it's in the water, that's absorbed in the skin. We're making them take it. They ingest it through their nostrils because that's the other thing, you know, dogs sniff everything, right? Something falls on the floor, they're gonna lick it. They're gonna pick it up and eat it. And if you clean your floor with something that's toxic, well, they're also getting it. So think that the problem with this is the cumulative effect, right? If this was a once a month or once every 6 month exposure, probably everybody would be fine. But these are things that are occurring 24/7 every single day. And animals, just like people, they have different, everybody's different. So I have a friend that she had a horrible infestation of fleas or ticks, I don't know. So she went to the vet and said, I can't control it. They gave him one of these flea and tick. And I think she has like 6 dogs. Well, guess what? One of the dogs got horribly sick, and they're all probably related because she breeds them. This dog nearly died, and it's been thousands of dollars in the emergency room. They had to put a feeding tube. I go like, oh my God. So some dogs are going to be okay, but there is going to be those dogs that are not going to be okay. And after reading that, it's like an independent study that they did 66% of side effects. Well, that's a pretty huge number, right? So what can we do? So that's the bad news. So, and part of what I do that I'm passionate about this is I want to research, like, what can I do? What can I do to make it a little bit better, right? And so because our bodies are so magical, the primary mechanism that the body uses to get rid of glyphosate is an enzyme that is produced in the liver called glutathione. And Eileen is also going to do me a favor and spell it in the chat box. Glutathione is this huge molecule that is, think of glutathione like sticky fly paper. So what happens is that all the toxins get stuck to it, and then it can be excreted off of the body. But I want you to Google it because it's, when you read all the things that glutathione does, is just like amazing. And it is really the best, and I think pretty much the only thing that we can do to protect our animals. So when you Google it, there's gonna be a million links, but don't buy into, these are half truths that you can, get glutathione supplements and things like that, because glutathione, the synthesis of glutathione is very complex. So you cannot eat it in the diet, your body has to make it. And one of the ways it was explained to me was, it's like, think of it like a revolving door, where some things have to come in and others have to come out for that, let's say, system of making glutathione be turned on. So it's quite complex. And you'll read that there's like glutathione patches and infusions and, all kinds of stuff, but we have a way better solution. So there is a pathway in the body called NRF2, and all mammals have it. So we're lucky our dogs have it too, dogs and cats. And the NRF2 pathway, one of the things among many things that it does is it activates this master detoxifying enzyme glutathione by 300%. This is incredible. And it happened in every single person, animal that they tested. Every single, not 10%, 20%, 100%, they got the same results. So to me, this is like simple, elegant, cost-effective, and I think it's the best way we have to give these animals a fighting chance. What I do, so what can we do? We can try to control the environment, right? Give the best food possible, feed raw, add some natural stuff. By all means, don't spray Roundup on your yard. Be really conscious about what things you use to clean. And remember, this is for your kids and for us as well. Right? Because, well, we don't lay and lick on the floor, but still, if you put those plugins and that kind of stuff, you use cleaning products, and, maybe your kids, touch it and they're not going to wash your hands every time they eat and things like that. So we're also in contact and ingesting this. When you put a collar on your dog and you pet your dog, guess what? You don't go wash your hands every time you pet your dog, right? So we are also, this is also for you. This is an eye opener. Sadly, we live in a very, very toxic environment. So anything that's in your control, whether it's, looking at the labels of the cleaning products and maybe use things like vinegar or lemon, or, there's lots of natural recipes. I know Carolee uses essential oils, and she has all these little recipes of things that you can do. So I know it's a sad reality that we have to deal with. I know that up north, the issue with the Lyme disease and ticks is horrible. And I live in Florida, and in the summer, the fleas and the ticks are like out of control. So we have to use these things. The way that I do is I try to control my environment as much as possible. But then what I do is I double dose. I give AM and PM the week before and the week after if I have to administer one of these things that I have to ingest, or if I put a brand new collar or something like that, I just double dose my dogs on that NRF2, and it gives me a little bit peace of mind. It gives me, just knowing that I'm really trying to do the best that I can for them, to give their bodies a fighting chance, to get that glutathione revved up 300%, and helping their liver, detox from this stuff that we just are kind of forced to use. So I hope this has been helpful, and get with the person that invited you to this or sent you this video and get some information. If you want the study on glutathione, we have it. And let's just help our dogs try to, live long, healthy lives with activating this NRF2. It's super easy and economical. So that's the best that we can do for them.
Yeah, thank you, Lilian. And I want to remind everybody, next week, well, we're going to stop the recording and have a question and answer period. But next week, we will be talking about glutathione with Dr. Brett Brimhall. And so please join us next week. And that week 1 recording is in the chat box, or else we can hand that to you also. So thank you, everyone, for coming.